We are in one hell of a mess, ladies and gentlemen, and to see how desperate our situation is, because we've got people running this country who are just rubber stamping willy-nilly, and that's why it's important we have tonight's program. Joining us, our regular panellist, Dr. Philip Altman. Great to have you back on, Phil.
Thanks, Hoodie.
And also we have Karen Fox from Australia Exits the WHO. Now, Karen, last time we had you on, you covered a whole raft of information that people were desperately aware to find out more about. And a lot of people have been acting on that. They've been signing petitions and writing to politicians. And we're talking, of course, about the international health regulation and the importance and the impact that will have on this country. And Karen, there's been a lot going on, and there was a petition signed by many. I know I signed it, and you've had a reply today. So let's hand it over to you straight up. And thanks for joining us.
Hi, Hoodie. Thanks for having me once again.
Pleasure.
We received a response today, over 2 months late, from the Department of Health. A page and a half of the same response we've been getting back for over 18 months. And one paragraph in particular contained about 3 lies, including that there would be consultation on the Article 59 IHRAs, which will be in place at the end of this month in Australia. The reply says that the J. Scott Committee was going to look at those in full, and that they would also be put in front of the Parliament, and that those amendments would have public scrutiny and public consultation, and they're going to be in place in just over 2 weeks, and there's been no such thing. And the ability of the Department of Health to tell that big a lie this close to this happening is just floored me, Hoodie.
So just to reiterate to people what J. Scott stands for, because the people in J. Scott are responsible for a whole bunch of stuff that this country signs up to.
So J. Scott stands for the Joint Standing Committee on Treaties, and they are supposed to analyse all of this information. They actually never looked at this for 14 months of an 18-month consultation period, and then they put it through, approved the lot, and that's never been to Parliament. That will be approved at the end of this month, and that's what the petition was about. Over 55,000 people signed that petition, and that was asking for them to reject the amendments that will be in place at the end of this month. And as I've said, it's taken them till now, over 2 months late, to finally reply with absolute rubbish. Anyway, we don't give up easily. So we have started a new campaign today, and this is squarely aimed at all of our MPs. So this is something that everyone in Australia can get in on. We have a platform that can send letters, that can send emails that will copy in your state senators and the J. Scott Committee with one button. We need everyone to write the letters in their own words, but it's a step-by-step process where we've given everyone information so that you can choose the parts of this that really worry you the most. And there's a lot of things that are there to worry about, but we really want people to tell their MPs why they're not happy about the WHO deciding what goes into them, what goes into their children, and whatever the WHO says being binding.
So basically, let's cover off on this. The International Health Regulation, the Pandemic Treaty. I've been simplifying at the meetings that we've been conducting all around the country. Basically, once another pandemic is declared, a global pandemic, Tedros becomes pretty much the governor of Australia.
Correct. And it doesn't even have to be a real pandemic or a proven pandemic. It can be a perceived pandemic. So if the WHO believes there might be a pandemic, they can still enact those powers.
Philip Altman, what could possibly go wrong, my friend?
Absolutely everything. This is so serious. Everyone who's listening needs to pay close attention to this. The implication, the ramifications cannot be overestimated. I urge people to go to my Substack of the 27th of November. For those listeners who aren't on my Substack will detail the names and contact details of the 16 parliamentarians who are on JSCOT, the Joint Standing Committee on Treaties, who will be basically responsible for approving or recommending the approval of this treaty. And if they do so, it should be a career-ending move for every single one of them. I suspect they will try and keep the vote secret, but that's not acceptable. If this passes, every single parliamentarian on that committee, those 16 members, should have their political careers ended. It is that serious. And that's happening, as Karen says, at the end of this month.
Now, Phil, can you
basically means that Tedros, who is not elected, who is not a clinician, who is not a doctor, who cannot be charged for any crime in Switzerland, who does not pay any taxes, cannot be investigated, and he is under the absolute control of Mr. Bill Gates, who is the primary funder, private funder of the WHO. And Bill Gates is the biggest vaccine investor in the world. And if Bill Gates tells Tedros to issue an order, you can bet he's going to do it. And we may all be forced to be injected. Now, some people might laugh at that.
Not me.
Just think about it. If they bring in identification as is proposed, digital ID, and they can control with digital currencies as well, they can control your life. And if you're not vaccinated, your life, as we know it, could come to an end. You might be forced to be injected against your will. So I'm not overstating this.
No.
This is what is written in the treaty. And no one, most people who read the mainstream news media, the newspapers, have not a clue what is going on. And it is absolutely appalling. It's frightening. It's chilling.
Dr. Philip Altman, can you read the list of those 16 names on the Joint Standing Committee of Treaties so we can see who's involved in this?
Look,
I can if you would like me to.
Right. I don't have them on my desktop at the moment.
Go for it, Karen. Let's
Okay.
see who is managing, who is holding our destiny in their hands.
Right, I'll just a point of order there, Philip. The first amendments that go through at the end of this month only change timeframes. So what they do is make the timeframes shorter. For the nasty amendments, there's 307 of them that will, by the look of things, come into force next May. So we have 10 months from next May to alter them. They will be in place 12 months from next May. So there is a little bit more time, but our first argument is still at the moment, before we get to this deadline, that if they reject these timelines, it at least gives us the same time frame as has always been in place, so that they're not trying to shorten things up. And the physical possibility of the JSCOT committee doing everything it is supposed to do inside of 10 months is an impossibility. But I believe that they don't even know what's coming. They have looked at one part of this and they haven't even looked at what's coming at them. And that's something we've been trying to get across to them without much success. So they are Josh Wilson, who's an MP from Fremantle in WA. He's the chair. The deputy chair is Philip Thompson, who is from Queensland. Sam Birrell is another MP from Victoria. Matt Burnell is an MP from Gawler and the Barossa, South Australia. We have Matt Canavan, Senator Claire Chandler, Dr. Andrew Charlton, who's an ex-WEF Global World Young Leader, Lisa Chesters, Senator Dorinda Cox, a new addition, Senator David Fawcett, Senator Nita Green, Daniel Molino, Senator Deborah O'Neill, Henry Pike from Queensland, Senator Marielle Smith, and Kate Thwaites, who is from the Labor Party, Victoria. At the moment, there is 10 Labor and Green representatives and 6 Coalition and National or Liberal and National.
So if people want to get in touch with your parliamentarian that's representing you, go to philipaltman.substack.com and go to my Substack. I issue a Substack almost every day. It's the one of the 27th of November. If you click on the links, you'll be able to get the emails of your member or senator to write to, and that's what everyone should do. It's critically important. To be silent is to speak, and if you don't take action, it's going to happen.
Yep. So the address of the website that people can go to, where we have got this set up to email these letters, and if it goes from this website, we have a tally and we are able to follow how many letters have been sent, how many emails have been sent to what postcodes.
That's a great idea.
So when we go back to representatives and say, we know that 5,000 emails have been sent to your electorate, it's very hard for them to weasel out and say no one cares about this. So that address is mysaymatters.com.au. So we'll get Hoodie to maybe put that with the notes of this video. And the people that are on JScott, if people want to go straight to them, are on the Oz Exits Who website under JScott. So there's a page devoted to them there. And we really believe that, I know from personal communication that 2 of the members on JScott had no idea about the rubber stamping of the first set of amendments. So it was done in such an underhand manner that members of JScott didn't even know that happened. And they were deliberately separated from the rest of these amendments so that they were categorised as a low category amendment that was administrative only. But again, I don't think these people know what's coming at them. Unfortunately, the JScott Secretariat play this game where they say it hasn't been recommended to us, so JScott doesn't know about it yet. But in numerous reports done in previous years, the JScott Committee has the ability to look at any negotiation that is in action. So they really don't have an excuse for not looking at the amendments that are coming. Except that they just don't.
Some of the amendments, Karen, are quite sinister, as I recall hearing them over the past few months. Have you got a couple of standout examples there? I know this is a question without notice.
No. The first part of the email that we're getting people to say, and we're saying which of these really affect you the most. Is it the WHO recommendations changing from advisory to legally binding? The removal of the clause with full respect for the dignity, human rights and fundamental freedoms of persons, which for mine goes to the intent of the entire document.
Yep.
The possibility of health treatments for you and your children being mandated by the WHO. Surveillance and movement restrictions and censorship being mandated by the WHO. I think there's also national security issues with that. Now, this is a big one, is the One Health idea, which extends to animals and the environment. So when we're talking about a health response, their idea of health is One Health, which is the entire biosphere. And the most scary part of that is that could open up climate lockdowns. So if you think I'm fine, I've had all my vaccines, they won't come after me, it's quite possible that if you drive your petrol car too far, yes, they might be after you too. The track record of the WHO over the last 3 years is another reason that we shouldn't be lining up to have them have more authority over us. And there's also the cost, which affects the cost of living, the cost of adhering to whether it's climate change actions, or whether it's just the sheer cost of this. Australia at the moment funds the WHO $100 million a year. Penny Wong kindly gave them another 100 million in the last month, but they are currently asking for, with the PPP manifesto, $30 billion a year, which is more than 5 times their current funding, and that will no doubt come from member nations. And that's only for pandemic preparedness. That isn't what they want to respond to a said pandemic. There is also multiple clauses in there that, so the word equity really means that the richer nations will be funding health response for the poorer nations, and there's no costing on any of that either.
As we've said many times, what could possibly go wrong? I mean, Australia, please wake up. With all due respect, we are accepting the unacceptable. And if you want to live your life like that and hand that over to your kids and grandkids, then you need to have a really long look at yourself in the mirror. I mean, honestly. And the government needs to be awake, Philip and Karen, because, you know, we've spoken to 30,000 people at individual town hall meetings in the last few months. And I can tell you that the Australian people have lost complete faith in government at every level, and for good reason. I can't believe I'm as adamant about this as I am. And I know you two probably have never been in this sphere as we're all in now. And so many everyday, average, beautiful Australian people are saying enough is enough. Now you're poking the tiger, and for goodness sake, we all need to start waking up, everybody. This is phenomenal. So where to from here? You're forming an alliance, Karen.
Yes, so we are working with Stand Up Now Australia and AMP, so the Australian Medical Professionals Society, on this, and we are obviously reaching out to every freedom group, every representative that we can find to share this message. We would really like to get 1 million Australians to respond to this and write to their MPs. A quick tip for using the website: if you write the letter and you have your PDF, you can cut and paste all of those responses into the email section, so you only have to do it once. We know that they tend to dismiss emails, but we would still like to have everyone send an email, as much so that we can count the responses, and that we can say to these MPs, we know that this many emails and this many letters were sent, so it's impossible for you to tell us that no one is interested in this issue or that no one cares. Unfortunately, the word treason is bandied around a lot lately, but it's pretty hard to not see that as the word that covers this. This is the selling out of Australia to foreign powers.
Well, we've become used to that over many decades now, since Gough Whitlam. We've seen this happen over and over again. Philip, further thoughts from your perspective? I know you're active across a lot of this stuff. You know, you're very good at sounding the alarm, and you're a credible signal on that basis. This is I've said in the meetings for the last few months, when the referendum failed, one of the biggest reasons in the dissection post-event from the media and also from the politicians who were being interviewed was it fell over for several reasons, but the main one was misinformation. Then there was a lack of bipartisanship. Then there was, Australia's more racist than we thought it was. Nobody mentioned that this fell over because the people don't trust the government. Nobody mentioned that. That wasn't raised. But it's very interesting now that the referendum's over and it failed. The government's now saying misinformation has caused hardship now to the Australian Aboriginal people. Therefore, we must get this misinformation bill through so that this never happens again. And it's a perfect weapon, a perfect catalyst for them to push that bill through before the IHR gets an opportunity to be fully discussed amongst everybody through freedom of choice and freedom of information. Is that how you see it?
Isn't that ironic? I've been following the COVID story and the COVID vaccines from the very beginning. We've all been on long learning curve. And now, after almost 4 years, I think it's reasonable to conclude that the war is over now concerning the battle on COVID science. Any credible person now who looks at the science objectively must conclude that every single bit of information that our government told us about COVID and the vaccines was either misinformation, disinformation, or outright lies. That's a pretty bold statement to make, but it is exactly true. Our government were the purveyors of misinformation and disinformation, and now they look set to back a bill concerning misinformation and disinformation, where they are the originators of misinformation and disinformation. It is such a crazy upside down world. It is really hard to conceive that this is really happening. Once they get this bill through, if they get it through, voices which don't support the fake narratives of the government, which we've seen for the last 4 years in this fear campaign, those voices may well be silenced. It is a turning point in our society from which we may not be able to return. It is really that serious. And what Karen is talking about with this treaty is part of the problem that we all face. It's the immediate issue, but it's only one of the issues, but it is a critical issue. And I applaud Karen's efforts to organize people to get involved and to contact their parliamentarian and to speak up. It is just so critically important.
Yeah. We believe that awareness is the best weapon that we have, and no one is supposed to know about this, especially the general public. A lot of our parliamentarians have no idea about this, so it's obviously something that has never been talked about on mainstream media.
No.
But it affects everyone. Your ability to choose, no matter what that choice is that's democracy. So this is removing democracy, which, I mean, we've got a lot less faith in over the last 4 years than we ever have before. The misinformation bill is definitely a disaster, because it's basically empowering the people that have been spreading the misinformation and ensuring the voices of anyone else are silenced. And 832 very much applies. You can't, the truth is still going to be there, whether it's reported or not. And these measures, it's really hard to believe that a democratically elected government, in theory, could even be raising this misinformation bill. It also silences the opposition. It gives license to the government and all government departments, and it silences the opposition as well as any opposition voices.
Well, we're in one big mess. There's no doubt about that. We've got a situation where people need to act, because I've been saying it for months now. This IHR, I believe, is the darkest cloud on our horizon at the moment, and it must be dealt with. We must prepare for its arrival, and we must do everything we can to turn it around. We must do.
Yep.
We had a massive turnout around the country on Saturday for Remembrance Day. A lot of Australians went to Remembrance Day. A lot of people who are awake and asleep. May I ask the question of you all, what were you remembering? Why did you go? Because the basis of everything that you went to remember is at risk with this international health regulation. Look, I'm wearing my father on my shirt. My dad, it's his memorial T-shirt, and I'm wearing it in honour of him for the rest of the week over since November 11. But we've got to do something, for goodness sake. We have to do something now. I implore all doctors to really push this as well, especially those in AMPS and the Freedom Doctors as well. AMPS is a great organisation. It's grown to about 800 doctors now who believe that the other medical authorities have let them down. So there's 800 doctors that we know of there with integrity, and I know a lot of the rest of you are waiting to jump on board. Join AMPS. There's nothing wrong with it. Just because you're in AMPS doesn't mean you're deregistered. There's a lot of people who are members of AMPS who are still working, the Australian Medical Professional Society. So join them. They're doing great work. And let's get this thing happening. Anything else you'd like to add, Karen, before we go?
Very much on the Remembrance Day theme. Really everything that our forebears fought for is lost if we lose this with the stroke of a pen. If this is decided by people in theory that we elected, that it's easier, their job is easier if they allow foreign bureaucrats to make their decisions, then why are we paying them at all?
Let's circumvent a lot of them. Phil Altman?
It's fundamental to our freedom. We have to win this battle, and everyone has to pitch in. Don't be a bystander. Don't think that other people will write in. Do it. You have to do it, and you have to put pressure on your representative. And if they fail us, they should pay the price.
Yeah.
And they should know that.
Well, sadly, it's been a laid down misère around the world when these crazy kind of legislations sneak through. It appears that apart from a handful that we all know and love in Canberra, there's no backbone. There's no backbone in any government around the world to stop draconian legislations like these going through. And you know what? We get what we deserve, ladies and gentlemen. So the ball's in your court. Philip, what's on the horizon for you over the next week or two?
Oh, look, I'll be speaking at various venues, and I continue with my Substacks every day. That's important, and I've been spreading information about the WHO and this treaty for many months, and it's important that people keep fully appraised. That's what I do. Because in this age of censorship, it's hard to know where to go to get information, and that's sort of the role that I've given myself, is to disseminate reliable, credible, timely information almost on a daily basis, if I can do it. And I urge people to go to my Substacks, share the information. Look at the links, support people like Karen Fox, who are fighting the good fight. Yeah. It's information that's power to us, and they're trying to deny us access to information, and it takes a bit of effort, it takes a bit of time, but you owe it to yourself. You owe it to your family. You owe it to your grandchildren and generations to come.
Yep, you do. Now,
I'd just like to add, I'm a representative of a small group of volunteers, so they've just decided I talk quite well, so that's why I'm here. I'm representing a group that's put a lot of work into this, and we're all volunteers trying to do this around our day jobs. We have joined with some other wonderful people, including Katie Coppins and Peter Pham, and a couple of other people that have volunteered recently to get this message out. Maria Z is working hard for us as well at the moment. So I'm just fronting a group for a lot of people that have put in a lot of effort, because we really believe this is important. And you know, we've set up a system that's as easy as possible for people to have their say. Our website australiaexitsthewho.com has a lot of information if you don't understand what's going on here. And you mentioned earlier, Hoodie, that there's a lot of confusion, a lot of conflicting stories. It's been designed that way deliberately to confuse everyone. But even in the MySay site, we have the links to the source documents, and you will find the argument will come back from the politicians where they will tell you all sorts of things that are different to our information. The best way to cut that off is to look at the source documents, which we have quoted everywhere, and read them. So if your parliamentarian is saying something that is different to what we're saying, go to the source document, have a look where they've taken out binding, have a look where they've taken out fundamental freedoms, because it's very, very hard to argue against those points. And we know that this is complicated. It takes a lot of getting your head around, but we need to get this across to all of our MPs, and we need to be in numbers, because one out or a couple of us is not going to do this. We need a large proportion of the population to let the Parliament know that we're not going to vote in anyone that supports this.
Well, Matt Canavan and the other 15 members of J Scott, we send out the invitation to you. We'd love you to come on to the program and listen to Karen and Peter Pham and the others that she mentioned as well, and Philip Altman. We'll happily set up a debate where you can put our minds at ease about this particular document from the World Health Organization. I mean, you have an obligation to do that for the citizenry who put you into office. So we're not going to bag you if you come on. We just need you to come on and tell us the truth. Or if you don't know what's going on, then listen to the people who do, because I personally don't believe there's anyone with more credible information about this IHR than Karen Fox at the moment. So this is a lady who's done a research. She actually knows more about this than you do, J Scott. So we're happy to facilitate a meeting, even if we don't record it. Please come on board and listen to what these people have to say. Look, Philip Altman, thank you so much for coming on. Karen, please also get back to us when you have any changes or anything you'd like to help us promote. We're happy to do that, and we will continue to do that. And if you could also please, after we finish, send me the links to those sites that you mentioned, and we'll get those people signing up. So
Will do.
On behalf of John, who couldn't be here tonight for obvious reasons, we thank you both for coming on. As customary, I'd like to close with